Edition of biology. Today we want to look at parasites of farm animals. What is a parasite? I know you might have come across this word parasite. So what is parasite? Now, a parasite is an organism that lives on or in another organism that is known as the host. And what does it do? It sits on this host and causes diseases to the host. I'll take that again, though I'm going to give you an elaborate note after this class, but I want you to listen very attentively. That a parasite is an organism that lives on another organism that is called the host. So it lives on another organism called the host. And what does it do? It causes harm to this host. So any animal that behaves that way is known as a parasite. Any animal that behaves this way is known as a parasite. Now let's look at types of parasites. Now there are two types of parasites. There are two types of parasites. The first one is called ectoparasites. And the second one is called endoparasites. Now, as the name implies, ecto in biology means outside. So this simply implies that ectoparasites are parasites that live outside the body of their hosts, outside the body of their hosts. So when an organism lives outside the body of its host and is causing harm to that host, that organism becomes an ectoparasite. Then we have the other one, endo. Endo simply means inside. So these are organisms that live inside the body of their hosts and causes harm to the hosts. So when an organism behaves this way, we say that organism is an ectoparasite. Remember I told you that there are organisms that live outside the body of their host. So example of such an organism, can you think of a parasite that lives outside the body of an organism? Okay, let me give you one. We have what we call the tick. We even have the lice, etc. They are much. So these are creatures. These are creatures that you see on the body of our animals. And what do? They cause a lot of discomfort to the animal. Apart from causing discomfort, some of them can lead to the body of the animal being wounded, and they will result to sore and injury, which can be an avenue for secondary infection. Now, let's take the tick. How does the tick look like? Let's look at the biology of the tick. The body of the tick is divided into two segments. The body of the tick is divided into two segments. We have the head and we have the abdomen. So the body of the tick is divided into two segments. We have the head and the abdomen. It possesses a teeth. It possesses a tooth, and this tooth is used to hold firm to the host. And what does it do? When it holds firm to the host, it begins to pierce. So it has a piercing. It has a piercing organ, which is used for sucking. I'll take it again, that it is divided into two segments, the head and the abdomen. Then it possesses a tooth, That tooth is used to grab, to hold on to the host, while it has a piercing organ that is used for sucking. What does it suck? It sucks blood out of the host. Now let's look at the life cycle of this ectoparasite. The life cycle of the tick. 1. The tick lays eggs. It lays eggs under the ground. The tick lays eggs under the ground. That means the tick lives on the ground. It only gets into an animal when an animal gets in contact with them. They lay eggs on the ground or on grasses. Example, our herbivorous animals, when they go to feed on grasses, they end up picking the eggs of these tools. Now those eggs, point 2 says that the eggs hatches, the egg will hatch into what we call the larva. So they lay eggs, and this egg hatches into the larva, and the larva is made up of, the larva has 6 walking legs. So you can see that the egg will hatch into larva, and these larvae are motile. They begin to move because they have 6 walking legs. The larvae crawl into the grass. The larva crawls into the grass. When it crawls into the grass, it gets attached, crawls into the grass and gets attached to the grass. So the larva crawls, gets to the grass and gets its body attached to that grass. Now, after attaching it to the grass, when an host gets to feed on the grass, it picks the larva. So that is how the larva gets into its host. When the host, for example, we have the herbivorous animals, immediately they get in there to feed on those grasses, automatically they pick it and the larva gets into their body. I'm going to explain all this. Just follow me as I'm going. It feeds on the host and later drop to the ground. After dropping, the nymph finally moves into adults. All right, let me explain further, please. Let's start from the beginning. This is the life cycle of the tick, which is an ectoparasite. What the tick does is that it lays an egg on the ground or on grasses. Immediately the eggs are laid, when the condition is favorable, the egg will hatch into what we call the larva. Note that the tick undergoes what we call complete metamorphosis. So when they lay eggs, the egg hatches into the larva. This larva, being a living thing, develop 6 walking legs. Because they have legs now, they will crawl with their legs and hold onto grasses, waiting for any animal that will come to that grass. When an animal gets to the grass, they attach themselves to the grass and begin to feed on the blood from the animals. So as they suck the blood, when they are okay, they will detach themselves from that animal and fall to the ground. As they fall to the ground, they will molt. Molting is a process of growth. So they will metamorphose from the larva stage to another stage known as the nymph. So when they metamorphose into nymph, their legs will now increase into 8. So you see that from 6 legs, they now have 8 legs. So after they have formed mold, they will now crawl again. The nymph will crawl and attach itself to a second host. That means it drops from the first host, it will now attach itself to a second host and begin to feed. As it is feeding, it will now drop again to the ground. You can see that immediately it gets food, it drops to the ground and changes its form. So after feeding on the second host, it will drop again to the ground, and this time the nymph will now finally metamorphose into an adult. So this is an adult tick, and this adult tick will now attach itself again. If an animal goes there to feed, the adult tick will attach itself to the body of the animal. Now, a very important thing happens. If the adult is a female, if it's a female tick, it will attach itself permanently on the skin of the animal to suck blood. But if the adult is a male, the male will be walking around the body of that animal instead of a female. When he sees the female, that means mating will occur. Immediately mating occurs, the female will now detach from the host, fall to the ground and lay her eggs, and the cycle will continue. So that is a brief life cycle of an example of an ectoparasite known as the tick. So I want you to go through it again. Look at from when it lays its egg, the egg hatching into larva, the larva with 6 legs, falling down to the ground, later growing, moving up to another animal to change to nymph. From the nymph, it crawls again, changes to adult, and the cycle continues. So that is a brief life cycle of the insect known as tick.